looking for that great next read or your new favorite author? Check out Amy's Bookshelf Reviews recommendations. You won't be disappointed. Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. It is a spin-off of the website and book review site of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is about book reviews, a writer's muse, a book's peruse, author interviews, and literary news. Welcome to the new year, where new things may happen with this. I hope you all enjoy, and thank you for listening. Good evening, listeners. I'm Amy, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Before we move forward, I want to just apologize ahead of time. I am dealing with either allergies or a cold, so I may not sound the same, and if I sneeze, I really apologize. And today we are joined by an author who is pretty amazing, and he's pretty far away. Please introduce yourself and let the audience know how they can connect with you.
Hi, Amy. Thank you. I'm dealing with a bit of a raspy voice myself. I've been screaming in tongues and accents all week for my lecture classes, and I kind of neglected to realize that's going to take its toll. But we'll do the best we can. My name is Jorah Kai. I've been kind of an artist forever. I think when I was about 12, I had a dream that I was writing with my toes in the sand on a laptop, and it seemed so far away. But here I am, and not too far from the South China Sea, and I like to write looking at the water, and it's kind of a dream. It's been a dreamy life. I've been involved in the arts for most of my life. I was a touring DJ and a music producer and in some bands and stuff for about 20 years, from a very young teenager till about 34. And then I moved to China, a cyberpunk super city called Chongqing, and I worked for a newspaper there, a little bit similar to Hemingway's journey with the Kansas City Star, except I live in the cyberpunk, super wild, huge city, the size of my population, of the same as Canada, where I come from, and it's pretty wild. It's been interesting. So I teach art history, I teach English, I edit for a newspaper, and around COVID, I had a bit of a existential crisis because it was all very new. I was the first Canadian journalist trapped in this kind of lockdown, and I had a CTV News front page diary, and it was a bit of my Hemingway's Kilimanjaro moment where I thought, my gosh, I've been taking these writing classes for like 30 years, and where is my pile of books? They're all in my head, and they're going to be in the grave in 2 weeks. And I started doing a diary, and that ended up getting published, and it won a bunch of awards in China and all this wild stuff. And I've just been trying to repeat that little bit of lightning in a bottle since. I've got about 10 books done in the last several years. Some of them are drafts I've redone. So that's a little bit about me. I have a website, jorahkai.com, a YouTube channel, and all that. But it's we're just kind of kicking that off. It's a new channel, and I'm mostly on Blue Sky these days because I'm excited by the optimism that's flowing around there. It's a little bit different than some of the other kind of older ones that I'm not spending as much time on.
Oh, well, considering you are on a China mountaintop, I am really glad that you join us, and you're going to talk about your book, The Sun, and I don't know how to say that word.
I'll help you. I'll help you when we get there. Yeah, the sun
The sun also rises on
Cthulhu. Cthulhu.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Cthulhu. Yeah. It's a very popular word in print, right? And it's a little bit tricky to say. But yeah, that's I think one of the most interesting horror kind of figures these days. A giant sort of cosmic horror monster. It's there's little plushies for it. Lots of video games. It's an interesting IP, Lovecraft's IP. Lovecraft is kind of a problematic writer, but it's ripe for modernization. Lovecraft Country or Lovecraft County was pretty interesting as a remake. But yeah, Cthulhu is a very beloved, and in China here also a very popular character.
Oh, well, that's really interesting. I I didn't really know that until I read your story. And one of the things that I thought was, you credit Ernest Hemingway, um, because, of his work, The Sun Also Rises, and then you're putting your own take on it. And um, I like this one better than Hemingway's original, just so you know.
Well, thank you. Mhm.
I'm actually not a Hemingway fan. I've read his work. I don't hate it. I'm just not a fan. But I went into reading this with, you know, pure, no expectations, just wanted to read the story. So I must say, to me, this was much better than Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises.
Mhm.
So in your uh in your writing career, is like have you collaborated or with other classic authors, or was this like the first time that you delved into, reinventing a classic author's work like Hemingway?
Yeah, no, this was a first for me. And it was for a while, I thought I was really going mad because I spent quite a bit of energy on it. And I thought it was really kind of just a bit of a creative writing exercise. Now, as a younger man, I was involved in some newspaper work, and I used to breathe fire and occasionally performed with Cirque du Soleil and DJed and played big festivals and stuff. And so a real mentor of mine, like someone I really looked up to as a gonzo shining light there, was Hunter S. Thompson. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and his work with Rolling Stone in the 70s, I believe, and all that. Hell's Angels was something that got a lot of attention. And as a younger man, I had heard that he had written Hemingway novels on a typewriter, and his friends would say, Hunter, you can go buy these books, like, what are you doing? And he just said he wanted to feel what he thought was like this raw power, this mastery of the craft, this really concise, tight style, the ethereal emission, the iceberg, and all of that. And he just wanted to kind of feel that going through him. I've taught writing for, about 10 years in China. Old Man in the Sea is quite popular. And so I kind of was originally going about it as a bit of a writing exercise. I had published a solar punk fantasy after all these COVID books and kind of like abstract, absurd philosophy of 3 years of lockdown. And I thought, I want to write something that's not about viruses and death. And I wrote this story. It's a little bit like a Chongqing boy, like a Chinese kind of Alice in Wonderland, Harry Potter kind of thing for parents, for friends of mine to read to their kids. And it was a really bombastic, over the top story. And I thought, okay, I got a publishing deal in China with the same publisher that did Liu Cixin's Three Body Problem. So it's finally coming out in the Chinese language after about 3 years of translation, editing, illustrations, and all of this. And they want the second one, and I kind of wanted the second one to be more substantial and more mature and darker. And I thought, well, what a better way to grow in my mind as just to kind of do that what Hunter did with Ernest Hemingway. And so I kind of started going about rewriting it. And I added horror, I added Cthulhu. I felt some connection between the sort of ennui and existential lost generation with this cosmic insignificance of Lovecraft's really popular horror mythos. And at the same time, I had this feeling that both, because of products of their time, there's some of Ernest's writing in it is a bit problematic, a little bit sexist, a little bit racist, as good at the craft as he was. And Lovecraft was famously racist, fairly xenophobic, a lot of his fear and horror. I mean, he's created these really captivating monsters, but he was a pretty close-minded person.
Yeah.
And so they're really ripe to be reinvented and kind of brought to a modern audience, I think. And that's kind of what I tried to do. And this is the first time I worked with another author, living or dead. So I always kind of think, if you asked me how was it to write a book with Ernest, I'd say, well, the hardest part is he's been dead for 50 years. But once we got over that, the rest was pretty smooth.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. You probably sat there and, had a nice conversation with him.
It
I
was it was kind of surreal. It was interesting. There was moments where I really just tried to channel, in a sense, the spirit of Ernest and figure what sending pages into the ether and trying to get some feedback. It was a big commitment, but I'm pretty happy. I have a hardcover copy that a friend of mine brought back from the States. It's about to come out on April 1st. And so he's brought a copy back to China for me, and always been a dream to see my book as a hardcover. So although the paperback and the ebook are all probably, nice enough.
Right.
Um, I love that it's a hardcover, and it's just really a joy to look at and think that I've created something, which is kind of remarkable. It's an amazing thing to make something.
Yeah, and I agree. It's when you have that in your hand, especially a hardcover, it's like, oh, wow. There are times when I've published just digital or paperback, and then I would just publish one hardcover for myself. Because so some hardcovers they can just it's cheaper to buy the paperback and with whatever, but I liked having the hardcover for myself.
Yeah, I mean, if you love books, it's the book's book, right? It's just a
Yeah.
beautiful way to hold and to touch a book. I think these days a lot of young people and even older people, friends of mine I know, I have a friend in the 70s. He was one of my Hemingway experts that was an early beta reader, and he just loves his Kindle and he prefers to read off the ebook. But for me, it's always I just love touching paper. I love having shelves of books, and I always have, and I think I probably always will. And so yeah, I'm a very tactile kind of person. I'm also very visual. I found I had the cover done 2 years before the book was done. And I put it on my shelf as a fake cover. And I looked at it as a way to tell myself the only thing stopping this from being a real thing was about 250 more hours with my butt in the chair. And that's how I got myself to get it done.
Well, sometimes that's just what we need to do. We as writers, we know what we need to do. Um, we let inspiration yours was Hemingway. At some point, Whitman, excuse me, Walt Whitman is one of my favorites. And a few years ago, I wrote what I thought was going to be my final book. And it's a collection of things, and Whitman was my inspiration for it. And I kind of sat down and thought, okay, he's here. I'm reading his book, and kind of just like felt like it was right there,
Mhm.
just that inspiration. And one of my I mean his work to me is just amazing, and especially several poems ode to Abraham Lincoln. um, but he was judged for his personal life, but he did not hide his personal life. And that is something that, especially way back then when he was around, that he was being judged on. But so he was just being himself and he didn't care who knew it.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that I admire, because I think everyone should be true to themselves and then, be their true self.
I think there's a lot to that. On one hand, yeah, no, I love the idea that we put so much into books. It takes so much effort, years of work sometimes, and this commitment. When I was in music, I could make a song on a Wednesday and have it recorded onto vinyl or something on a Friday, and then could drive to New York City and play it on a Saturday. And then people would be cheering within 3 days. And my first time I sat to write a book for 5 years, I thought, wow, this is a lot lonelier than playing music and a lot more work. And there's not a lot of instant gratitude. But there is that idea, I think, when you pick up a book, you're sitting with a friend, and that author is like a friend, and they're not really dead, are they? I mean, you could spend a whole day just talking to them and in communion, and so I think, as humans, we've tried to find a way to make a mark in the world, or to be meaningful, or to live on after our death. Maybe many of us are scared of what comes after. So some people have children, or they donate to charity, and others kind of imprint their souls in the spirits of dead trees tattooed with ink, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's kind of magical, isn't it? And Whitman, I think, yeah, is a wonderful writer as well. Oscar Wilde is another one that I'm always really was really impressionable for me. I really was excited to read Oscar Wilde. I thought he was just so witty, wild, and twain when I was quite young, and he was persecuted for his life as well.
yeah.
It's great to be out there, and it's probably good to grow up in a world before cell phones and social media too. If they had a hard time as it was then, it would be harder now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I think about that too. And, you know, I think at some point we have too much technology. I mean, now with being an author, it's there's so many ways to be able to market yourself. When I wrote my first book, and was I, I published it in 2005, and that was well before Google and Amazon. The internet was still kind of like an unknown kind of thing. They called it the World Wide Web, and I when I promoted my work, I literally created paper flyers and went out around my town and local towns and went to places that had actual bulletin boards where you would pin it up. And that was my marketing plan.
Mhm. Yeah, well, those were the days, though, weren't they? I remember, my formative years too, growing up in Ottawa, Canada, and getting flyers for events and all of that stuff. And it was very tangible. It's kind of one thing I do miss about being. I kind of exist almost like a ghost. I feel like I'm on this mountain in Southwest China, and I'm only a phone call away. At least my voice, some semblance of me. But the community I had in Canada feels pretty far away. I get back once in a while, but the world is both much bigger and much smaller in a sense when you kind of isolate yourself. But it's a big commitment I made for writing, and I don't regret it. I lived a lot in my younger years, my first 3 or 4 decades, and then I'm doing another thing, kind of trying to pass something forward with what the time I have left.
That is just it's remarkable. I mean, I've always ever since I was a kid. Well, when I was a young kid, I used to go for a walk in the woods with my notebook and my Walkman and just sit in the woods and write. That was the only place that I could get away from busyness of my home. There were 7 people. Uh, I have 4 siblings, and my mother was always watching other people's children. So that was a way that I could get out without noise and just the peacefulness. You mentioned how you were into music. When you write, do you listen to music?
Yeah, often, especially when I'm coming up with ideas, I do like to make a playlist sometimes of what my character might like, or different kind of vibes,
Yeah.
different soundtracks, and even for this one, I ended up creating. I think I published like 3 albums that have different kind of feels. One is almost like a soundtrack you could read along to, and then 2 others kind of tie into my headspace as I was kind of wrapping it. But yeah, no, I really do think the music can, especially as a writer, I think when you want to come back to something, if you have a song or a style or something to kind of get back to that, because if you spend too far away from it and you come back to it, you might just be in such a different head space that it's so jarring, maybe, or for the reader it might feel like a different writer is finishing the piece. But if you can maybe connect through the music, you can kind of keep it in the space and a continuous kind of vibe where you can really let it flow.
Yeah, I get that because, and it to me, it depends on, I pretty much like most types of music genres. They're like one that I can't really get around. Um, but I it depending on what type of story that I'm writing, because I write a few different genres, and when I want to get into, like, I'm a big Sinatra fan, so when I am writing about like this tough guy and he may be uh most of my main characters in my stories are strong women. But I also have a few that I wrote where the main character was a man. So I was, I get into the headspace of one character was Neil Diamond all the time. And then I
Mhm.
got into another one and it was like Frank Sinatra, and it just brought it together as I was writing. And I always have music playing, um, when I'm writing or whatever I'm doing, because it keeps me going. I'm disabled, and it is very hard for me. I can't rock out like I used to, but I still
Mm.
try. Um,
Yeah.
but it's the music that, I know and that I love. And even when I'm gone, my children, well, I have four grown sons, and three of them actually like me. So, but
Well,
I
that's a
know
great
that,
average.
yeah, I know that when they were the ones that I actually raised by myself. Um,
Mhm.
my first husband raised my first son, and he turned out just like his father. So I see him now and then, but when my boys hear certain songs playing, and then I'll hear them playing like the same songs, and I've picked up music from them, um, and their tastes vary, and then but I know that when I'm gone and they'll hear something and it'll remind them of me, and also anything that I've written, um, it's kind of just a legacy. I don't want everybody to say, "Oh, good, she's dead now. We can buy all her books." But
Well, it'd be tempting to fake our own death just to get that bump, wouldn't it? But
I
we'll
know,
leave
just
that to someone else to get the kids,
yeah.
maybe.
No, that's quite okay.
Well, for me, I played music and for many years, and I always wanted to get proper earplugs and all of that. And I always just thought it would take something away from the rawness or the visceral proximity of my head into the speakers and all that when I performed. So I ended up I suffered a lot of hearing loss. I mean, I can hear you. You got a great radio voice. It's wonderful to talk to you, even though we're maybe not both feeling our best today. And I hope I'm doing okay.
You
But for
are.
my
Thank
well,
you.
thank you very much. But yeah, for my music, it was always this kind of tragic thing, especially towards the end. I would fly to a gig and I would maybe have a 50% chance that my ears would be full of fluid and I couldn't hear, and it'd be an awful gig. So it would either be a wonderful gig for me in the crowd or it'd be really frustrating for everybody. And that was a problem. And then just the general hearing loss was a problem. And then it was this idea that this thing I love so much is going to destroy my life. And I'm getting less and less back from it. And I decided eventually I moved into teaching, and I thought, well, if I stop now, I have enough hearing left to be a teacher, to talk to people at least for a while, and have a little bit of a normal second career. If I do this much more, I won't have that anymore. And so that was a really hard choice, but I don't regret it at all because my writing has been wonderful. Teaching's been great. I met my wife here in China. She had a son, my stepson, and he's just got a 10-month-old beautiful girl now, my granddaughter. And so this is my life. It's totally different than blowing fire with Cirque du Soleil and headlining music festivals. Now I headline the head, shoulders, knees, and toes for the little baby Naomi, and it's wonderful. It makes me so happy. And and there is that feeling that when I'm gone, you know, I think one of the hardest things getting older is realizing you're not the main character anymore. But it doesn't have to be sad, like to
Right.
realize that Naomi is the main character for me now, and she's just a little baby, and she's going to grow up, and I'm just kind of slowly shuffling off to the side, playing a supportive role, and I'm just going to do the best I can. And when I'm gone one day, I hope that I just leave good memories behind because that's all we really, maybe our books, because we're writers, most people will just leave a memory and it'll either be a good one or a bad one. And I think and everyone wants to leave a good one.
Oh, definitely. I mean, one thing I learned from my mother, and I try to reiterate it now more than ever, um, is she taught me how to be kind. And um, and she didn't like just say, "Oh, set me down and say you got to be nice, you got to be nice, you got to be kind." She showed by example, and
Mhm.
I try to do that with my sons. I you know taught them based off of how I um you know treated others, or thought of things, and um they were always, because of that, they were always the ones that the teacher said that even if they did something wrong, they were just so polite. It's like,
Well, that's good.
I'm so sorry I didn't do my homework. But
Yeah. Well, as
so
a teacher, I do
it,
know that students that apologize definitely make me less angry than the ones that just stick their fingers up.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I wasn't a formal teacher, but the last 3 years of my twins, they're 25 now, but I homeschooled them, and I wanted to be the best teacher I could be for them. So I got my MBA in teaching, just so I
Oh,
could teach my kids at home.
and that's
Or not my MBA, I'm sorry. I have an MBA, but I got my master's in adult education. And prior to that, I wanted to be a better writer than I was. So I got my bachelor's in English. But
great.
it's something that I did it at age 38, and I'm a lot older than that now, but um, it showed my kids that they could, you know, just because they don't want to go to school now or learn something, they have the world ahead of them. And I hope it's a very long life. And and you're right. We kind of, we're not necessarily, we're not the main character anymore. We're, a supporting character because our children, I don't have grandchildren, but I have grandbabies, fur babies.
Mm,
And they know I'm grandma, so I love that. But
wonderful.
I wanted to ask you, when you were talking about your music, were you playing an instrument? Did you write your songs? Did you sing, or what kind of music did you
Well,
do?
that's complicated, I think I was pretty self-destructive as a young man because I think my parents split up when I was very young. I think that kind of left me with a bit of a hole in my heart. So I just went out dancing until the sun came up or my heart exploded, whatever happened first. And somewhere along the lines of the nightlife, I met, the fairies and ogres and all the creatures that live after dark, the artists and the gangsters and all the
Yeah.
people that gather in the periphery. And it was, so I was deep in the rave scene as a young man. So I became a DJ and I worked with some bands. I was doing music production. I played a little guitar. I still play a little guitar, a little keyboard, a little bass. But it was just a little mix of everything. We had a band called the Root Sellers, and we used to go around recording with session musicians and then remixing and putting together. And that was kind of wild because that was again kind of just something we did in basements, and ended up taking us to the Beijing Olympics and the Vancouver Olympics, 2010 Olympics, 28 Olympics, Burning Man, all these music festivals around the world. And so
Wow.
it's an interesting experience. Yeah. But again, it's very noisy there. And I hope my little granddaughter Naomi loves to dance around. But I say you'd be a great baby DJ, but I hope there's another path for you. I wouldn't want you to do what I did.
Yeah. And I think that that's what we want we don't want our kids to have to go through the harder times
Hmm.
that we went through when we were kids.
Hmm.
But I really enjoyed reading your book, and the review. I wrote the review already, so that'll be posted.
It's our
So
walk-off music.
I guess
Wrap it up,
so.
wrap it up.
I'm
Well,
just
thank you so
gonna.
much. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. It's one of those things. It was a big swing. My friend Bob Rivenbark, he's a sci-fi author, and he said, "Kai, you've done something really daring with that." And I thought, I know people are going to love it or they're going to hate it, and I'm probably going to get both. So I'm going to try not to read too many reviews, but I will. I will look at yours.
Great. And I'm just going to close out right now. If you wish for you or your book to be on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast. Thank you for listening. Be safe, be well, and always be kind.
Thank you, Amy. I hope.
Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. If you are looking to be on the podcast or looking for a book review, you can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com and look for the appropriate navigational menu. Again, thank you all for listening and being a supporter of this podcast and of the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews, professional reviewers of books and audiobooks. Thank you all. Be safe and be well. Shattered Pages, a Lincoln Millern mystery by Amy Shannon. When fiction becomes reality, the line between author and suspect blurs. Best-selling mystery author Tristan Wyatt, also known by his pen name, is really Lincoln McLaren. He dives deep into his writing third volume as a series. Suddenly he becomes entangled in a murder mystery surrounded by the plots of his books. Shattered Pages is available on Amazon.com.